And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. And we are being live streamed wherever podcasts live, my YouTube channel, etc. So we're not hard to find. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave para peeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother and abbot for the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I am a team member of Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents the Legion of Exorcists, which premiered on Travel Channel and is currently streaming everywhere if you haven't caught that yet. And if there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see. Both my books are there. They're available a little less expensive at Amazon, and they also come in an audio version, which is awesome. But if you buy them off of the website, they leave my office. I autograph them and they arrive to you in a beautiful house blessing kit. And you never know when one of those are going to come in handy. But another beautiful thing about buying them off of the website is part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. My online course is there, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. If that speaks to you, you can enroll in the course there. Or if you want more information about it before making that type of commitment, you can reach out to me. We'll talk about it. All my students that graduate get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion, suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items that you can only get from yours truly. And so that's there at the website. It's a 12-week online college level course. And there's also a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues. Okay, that's my song and dance, and I'm sticking to it. We have a great show today, and you all already knew that. That's why you tuned in. I'm excited to have him back. He's been on the show before. I love him. I think he's a super cool dude. And another really cool thing about my Friday shows, I've got a permanent co-host, and that's another reason why a lot of you tune in. So let me bring her out here. She's a lifelong paranormal experiencer. She's a good friend. I've known her forever. I also love her and respect her. She is the owner of Stellium Books. She's my publisher. Please give a big warm Paranormal Ministry family welcome to the one and only Annette Munich.
Hi, Father Shawn. Hi, everybody. Very happy to be here. Great guest today. Thank you for the super nice introduction. I really appreciate it, and I love and respect you as well.
Well, thank you very much. I know, and I already knew that, so you didn't have to tell me that, but I already knew that too. So
there you go.
We've got history, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about today. Have you met our guest before?
Just 2 minutes ago.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to try my best to remember to give you more of an opportunity to visit with him and chat with him because you guys haven't had a chance to do that yet. I've already put his feet to the fire and raked him over the coal on a lot of topics over the years, so I'm excited to have him back. Before we bring him out, is there anything you want to say to anybody out there other than happy Friday the 13th and happy Father's Day coming up?
I have no announcements.
Well, that is okay. I know you and I will be having a couple of important announcements very soon, so we'll keep that under wraps until then. But again, everybody, welcome. Happy Friday the 13th. Watch, don't,
Do people say that? Do people say happy Friday the 13th?
I don't know, but I like to be happy on it. I always say happy in front of everything because, I like to be happy. But, A lot of people think it's weird that a priest would be a little superstitious. I don't see anything wrong with it, and I am. I would think twice about walking in the same direction if a black cat crossed my path. I don't walk under ladders, even if it's not private.
Right.
I think it's just one of those things, but it is what it is. So
I've known quite a few people born on a Friday the 13th.
very interesting.
They
Very
seem
interesting.
all right.
Well, are you ready to bring our very
I'm
uh,
very ready.
okay, brothers and sisters? Like I said, I've known this guy for a while now. I met him through our happy medium, Susan Ahern, many years ago. I love him. I respect him. Like I said, I think he's a super cool dude. Hopefully, I get to work with him in the future. So, having said that, he is a very elite, talented ghost hunter, ghostbuster, paranormal investigator to start with. Two, he is an extremely talented, gifted filmmaker, director, and he's just getting started. And we're going to go into all of that. So please, everybody, give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Daniel Groom.
Hi,
Hello.
Daniel. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having
So
me.
glad to have you.
Where do we
Thank you.
start, man? Where do
Right.
we start? Do you want to go
Long time
down?
listener, second time caller.
Do you want to, for the few out there that may not be that familiar with you, I'm going to take you on a little trip down memory lane, if you don't mind. A trip
Yep.
down paranormal ministry lane, only because a couple of these questions came in to me this week after I started promoting your appearance from fans and followers of yours, and so we got to address it. Mass hauntings. When I first met you through Susan Ahern, you guys had, in my humble opinion, what seemed to be the next great web series, paranormal web series. I know you guys don't do that much anymore. I know mass hauntings. Um, we haven't seen or heard the last of mass hauntings. I know you put a little brief film clip of one of your investigations in your new movie, which I thought was very cool. That was a pleasant surprise. But people want to know what happened to mass hauntings. If you're going to either put the old team or maybe a new team back together and start that up again. I there's still you can people can still go to the Mass Hauntings YouTube channel and check out old episodes, but I really liked it and I want you to tell people about that.
Thanks. Yeah. I knew this would come. the so yeah, mass hauntings. The thing is with that is that life just got in the way for a lot of the people involved. So it's not going away. I can tell you that. In fact, I think we're going to try to revive it. I don't know if it's going to be the same people, depending on when it happens. But it's definitely something that we're trying to bring back. It's just, personal life gets in the way. And sometimes you really need to be in the right state of not only mindset, but also personal. You need to be basically just in the right mindset when you're paranormal investigating. Otherwise, it's going to affect you even worse when you get home. And I've actually had an experience like that if I wasn't in the right mindset, where something attached to me, actually doing an episode of Mass Hauntings. Back when we were just green, and I did not know too much about that, that area. And it was actually Susan that had to help me out. So I learned my lesson, and I know that that's definitely a reason why we need to just kind of take a break on that. But that doesn't stop us from investigating anything.
It's interesting you say that because I remember I learned early on uh, when I was just a paranormal investigator that was a big major factor. Like if I didn't get good rest the night before I go on an investigation, or if there were things that were really bothering me in my
Mm-hmm.
personal life, where I, was fighting a cold or some other ailments or something, that really affected my investigating, and sometimes that would cause attachments. Things would follow
Yes.
me home and continue to mess with me. So I learned that early on, and I carried that right on into my priesthood. When I go to work these darker, more malevolent type cases, I always, I just know to go to confession, go to mass, receive communion, try and get as close to being as in a state of grace as I can before I go there, or I just don't go.
Right.
Having said that, I remember when you and I first met, you never said to me, I don't believe in ghosts. But you always struck me as a person on the fence. Um, you're like a tech guru, and you're on the fence. You like to try and debunk and try and either prove something is or isn't supernatural or paranormal. But a lot has happened to you since those old days, doing
Yep.
mass hauntings. I'd like to know where that mindset of yours is now in this crazy thing that we're all involved in, which we call the field of paranormal investigations. Where are you now on all of that?
I'd still consider myself a skeptical believer, but I am a 100% believer because when I started doing this, it was more like a 90% because I always knew that something is out there. I never had an experience growing up. That was the only difference I would say from a lot of people. And I never, honestly, I've never really seen anything with my own eyes while investigating, like, as in apparitions, that kind of stuff. I've seen things happen and unexplained events happen, but definitely I'm a 100% believer, but my skepticism is still there because I think it needs to be. When we're doing all these investigations, we're so excited and we're amped up. We want something to, to kind of put us on the map, so to speak. And I have to take a step back and really debunk things and go through and make sure that what I'm saying or what I'm claiming is legitimate. So I still have to keep that skepticism. But 100%, I'm a believer, and I've seen things that have happened that I can't explain. So
Let's talk about equipment. You're
yeah.
no stranger to the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and there's uh, you ask 100 different paranormal investigators what their favorite video camera, or still photography cameras, or whatever. You get 100 different answers. Um, in terms of cameras and in terms of any other equipment that you enjoy, you really you would sign off on as being something worth using and worth having in your bag of tricks to take to an investigation. What would all that be, and what wouldn't you use?
Oh, yeah. Good curveball on that one. Um, my favorite camera, it's not even really an infrared camera or anything because I don't get too much evidence with that. But what I do love is an SLS camera. A lot of people say that's gimmicky. But there's been some things that I've caught, specifically, going back to the Lizzie Borden house. I've been back there since we did the Mass Hauntings episode. And I went with Dave on New Year's Day of 24, like literally as midnight struck. We were there on that couch, just waiting for something to happen. But I had my SLS camera pointing at that couch that Andrew Borden was murdered on. And all of a sudden, the stick figure just pops up out of nowhere, laying down on the couch with the exact same position. His arm was in the same position, legs, everything. And
Wow.
to me, that's the best thing that I've ever caught. Uh, I've used it before too. We went to the Villisca Axe House. That's in Iowa. And although nothing really happened on that day, I did catch one SLS figure in the attic where the murderer was alleged to have been hiding in before he went and murdered the whole family. It was basically a stick figure that crouched in the middle, or actually on the side, got up and then walked towards the middle away from wherever it was we were. And I have to admit, I was provoking just a little bit. If he was an actual murderer, I was trying to entice him to come out. So I think that probably just made him mad.
So I was going to jump in and ask really quickly for people that don't know equipment real well, including myself, that SLS, that's when it looks like stick figures.
Correct.
You
And
see
it projects the infrared dots, and it takes basically the 3D mapping of whatever's in front of it. If it's a human figure, it'll show up as a stick figure.
That's very cool and really cool about the Lizzie Borden house. And back in the day, I did a 4-part series on the Villisca Axe murder house.
Oh, really?
So I'm kind of really intrigued with that. It would be, nice if we ever kind of figured that out for sure, for sure. Do you think that it is? Do you think that it's figured out of what happened and who?
I don't know. I from what I've read about it, it was only like when I went to go there. It's the only time that I've actually seen like read anything about it.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I don't have any evidence that could really solve that mystery, really. So to me, I just don't know.
Both extremely haunted locations with such history. Um, and I'm glad you brought up you and I must be a little psychically connected here because I was going to bring up Lizzie Borden because I haven't heard you guys talk about that place in a long time. Any updates on that place? I heard there was a change of ownership. I heard at one time they were thinking about not letting paranormal investigators in there any longer. So, any updates on that? And I remember one time after mass hauntings had gone there, and you guys had, if memory serves me correctly, you'd been there more than once.
Mhm.
Susan had something follow her home from there, and I believe the spirit she caught it in a camera photo, and it was peering out from a window in her home at her,
Oh,
which was kind of creepy. So, do you have any updates on the Lizzie Borden and what's your feelings about all of that? There's so many theories.
Yeah, I've heard that it's been under 3 new ownership since the last time we were there. I think one of them's more of a corporate company, so I don't know exactly what's happening with them now. But I did hear that they're trying to not let people in there and just keep it either as a strictly a bed and breakfast, which I don't think that would be the best thing because everybody knows what that house is for. And honestly, how are you going to make money as a bed and breakfast like that if the
right.
bread maker's paranormal stuff?
Yeah.
So. But yeah, no, you're right about that image in her window. In fact, it didn't actually because she wasn't there. She believes that it followed me to her house, whether it was within all the equipment that I had or it was with me because apparently I'm prone to attachments now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, dude. When you let's go back a little bit to and you sent me a link to have my own little private screening of your latest film here in my
Mhm.
home in my office, and I sent that link to Annette, and I know she's going to want to talk to you about an experience she had watching your film a little bit later. But I want to back up to how you got started in filmmaking. And I have to mention Alternate Ground. Loved
Mhm.
Alternate Ground. I love your
Thanks.
I love your current film, Stonegate. And we'll get into that too. I really do. And that comes from the heart. But I loved Alternate Ground. Susan was had a role in that.
Mhm.
Talk to everybody about I get a lot of people saying, "How this guy? The guy's so young, uh, and he's so talented and passionate. How did he get in the indie filmmaking biz?"
Well, to back up all the way to like first grade, I was actually a huge wrestling fan and kind of still am today on that side. Um, but because my passion for wrestling as a kid just grew like almost to an obsession, there was a independent company where I grew up that was accepting students at the 16 and older, and I was just turning 16 at that point. So I trained to become a professional wrestler, and I quickly stopped because it hurts, and I was like, I'm not doing this all my life. But I still wanted to be involved, and I think honestly, I was never really a movie person. I would pretend that I was like some kind of big actor or superstar when I was younger. Um, but honestly, the technical side of the wrestling, I was always more involved in. And I realized that I'm more of a, I guess you'd say the showmanship of the shows than I am wrestling. And just after all these years, I'm figuring this out. So when I stopped wrestling, I asked the owners, can I like do camera work for them because they didn't have anybody at the time. So they said, yeah. And, honestly, indie wrestling camera work isn't the greatest, sorry to say. But once they saw like I was able to do it and do it well, they invested more into me being able to do that. And since I was still in high school, I was trying to figure out what I was doing to go to college. I was actually in culinary in high school, and I was like, I don't want to do that. It's too much pressure. So if I was going to do something, why don't I go for film? Because I was already doing that on the side. So that's what I did. I went to school for film, and a lot of my scripts were written because I needed class projects or whatever. And that's basically how I just got started.
Very interesting. You and I have a lot in common. I went through uh, many years being a big wrestling fan, and in addition to liking to eat, I fall into the culinary part. There was a time where I had some people that I love to cook, and I'll
Yeah.
pat myself on the back. And I'm pretty good at it. I had a lot of people close to me who tried to encourage me to go that route of being a chef, but that's very hard work too. You've got to be your passion for that has to be over the top, as with
Also
anything.
patience.
Yeah, but I just knew that I would be if I had gone that route, I'd look like Jabba the Hutt. I wouldn't be long for this world.
Yeah.
Um, and it is what it is. But so yeah, we have a lot in common. But
I I actually owned a pizzeria on Chicago suburbs, and
Nice.
I
Chicago pizza.
never, yeah, yep, stuffed pizza, deep dish, everything.
Nice.
I ate garlic cheese bread every day of my life
Yeah.
wow,
because it was fast, and I love it. And
did I know that about you, Annette? I don't know if I did or not.
I don't know,
That's very interesting. You must
yeah,
know how to make a killer pizza. Do you make it at home?
yeah, but I, this is gonna sound weird. It's hard for me to make small amounts of Italian food. If I'm making it, I'm making it, and then it's like a lot of food. So
Yep.
I tend to only do it if there's a reason there's going to be more people around rather than just for me or just for. But I enjoy it. But I will say I never worked so hard in my life. Everything was made from scratch and from fresh, and the prep started at 9 in the morning, and the cleanup went on to 11, 12 o'clock at night
Yep.
every day. And I did that right up until the day that I went into labor with my daughter, Amy. I was starting to go into labor and I was making pizzas.
That's funny. Well, Daniel, I see such great things for you. I really do.
Thank you.
Let's go back to alternate ground real quick. I want to readdress that again real quick.
Mhm.
Susan had a role in that. The small role she had in that, she knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Excellent film. I really enjoyed it. Um, and I think the last time you and I talked about it, there was possibly, possibly a sequel to that. Where are we at with alternate ground and possibly a sequel?
I thought about it. My problem is sequels are, I don't know. It's hard for me to even think of a story sometimes, right? So to continue the story, I've had many ideas and bouncing back and forth, and it's just one of those things that you can't really I can't um, really stick to one idea. Um, I don't know if I would do a sequel to it though. I know there's a lot of unanswered questions towards the end that we could revolve off of, but I'm not sure. I'd have to really think about if I would do a sequel to that because I love aliens.
Yeah, well, if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen it, it's called Alternate Ground. There's an excellent Facebook page of Alternate Ground, the movie, and you can still. Where can they see it if somebody's interested in it?
It's still on Tubi and Amazon. There's a few other smaller streaming sites. A lot of them are free, so you can go on just sit through the ads, but that's okay.
And I remember the lead actor, the young kid in
Mhm.
that movie, was also a member of Mass Hauntings.
Yep.
Owen, how was
Owen.
Owen and his mom doing?
Oh, they're doing great. They're that's we were just talking about trying to get Mass Hauntings back up. Also, I'm trying to finish his movie. He wrote and directed a movie himself back in
Really?
yeah, when he was 14, we were doing something with him. So I'm just trying to get the groundwork back up on that one.
Oh, very cool. Keep me posted on that. I'd be
Yeah.
very interested to see uh, what comes of that. He's also very talented, passionate young
Yes,
man. And I see great things for him too. But I'm glad to hear that him and his mother are doing good. Give them my best when you see them, okay?
I will. Thank you.
I'll try and get the next time you guys are really, uh, elbow deep in a project. I'll have you all back on again. We had that one. I had you all on that one time, a big panel. That was an excellent show.
Yeah,
So I'd like to do that again in the future if we could.
definitely. I'd be interested.
Well, mass hauntings, guys. Anybody out there that's not familiar with mass hauntings, they're on YouTube. Got some excellent episodes on there, and I know you have some fans and followers out there that reached out to me this week that asked me to ask you about that. So you've got people waiting on that. So if you guys get that up and going again, that would be awesome. You'll have a regular viewer in me that will watch all the time, and I'll get you guys on as often as possible. But let's get into movie making.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm gonna let Annette jump in here. Um, I loved the movie. You sent me a link to see it. I watched it, loved it. Watched it a second time in my office here. My wife hasn't seen it yet. She's anxious to see it. I sent the link to Annette. Annette watched it. She wanted to watch it before your appearance on the show today. So let's talk about how that whole project came about, and then I will let Annette um, talk with you about her experience.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing this. So basically, the movie it started because I had filmed a music video. Now, the music video was for a band that gave me a song to use in the credits for Alternate Ground. They're named Audiovex. And the song's name was Cave Alien, no relation. It just was a cool name. It was a cool song. I loved it. So we ended up creating a partnership because of that. And I used to work at a movie theater like 10, 15 years ago. And one of my friends there, well, he was a coworker at the time. I was leaving as he was coming in, but Brian Rektalskis, he joined the band, and it was pure just fate that it happened. Because one day I get a message from him on Facebook saying, "Hey, buddy, I heard you're the videographer for a band named Audiovex." I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Well, I'm their new bassist." So I was like, "Oh, that's fate right there, right?"
Yeah.
So they were talking about filming a music video for one of their songs in an abandoned mental institute. And at the time, this was the summer of 2020. So I literally had nothing to do. I was unemployed, because I work in live events as a full-time job. So everything was shut down. We ended up making plans to do this video at Medfield State Hospital, which is in Medfield, Massachusetts. It has like a million buildings, and only 2 of them are accessible. I probably shouldn't be talking about this, honestly, but we were able to go into 2 buildings that were used as movie sets for like X-Men. I think it was New Mutants. Shutter Island was also filmed there. So the way we got in was because Brian was volunteering to do some upkeep there. So we just did 1-day shoot there, and everything was successful, but we were like, we need to do more because we'd never been inside these buildings before. And, to have that opportunity was pretty cool. So we wrote a script about it. I did try to do it for Medfield, but to get all the permits and all that, because the music video was just a 1-day thing, it was okay to do. But to do a feature-length film, it's a completely different beast. It'd also be cost prohibitive because there's no facilities there. So it took 2 years before I could even get something to even match the buildings that we were trying to get into. So I did all this research around all of Massachusetts, all these abandoned buildings. And the only one that's still around and safe to film in was Tewksbury. And even that was still hard to get into, even though I went through the entire process. The hospital itself, like the department, they were fantastic to work with. So helpful, so appreciative of everything, and so am I. It was dealing with the state that was a little more tricky because they had to be careful of anything that happened there because it's still an open working facility for
Oh,
patients that are I don't know if they're violent, but they do have like, drug addicts, just people who need to be locked up.
yeah.
So that was the only issue that we had to deal with on that. But after a year, I was able to finally get the okay to film this movie. And honestly, that was the best place that we could do because this, it still had running water, bathrooms, all of that, electricity for all my equipment, and we had a bunch of security guards that were always, so interested in what we were doing, because this is another location that had movies filmed there as well. We had Huey Halloween, which is an Adam Sandler movie. It's on Netflix. So some of the set on that movie, I actually saw at the very beginning with Ben Stiller, and I actually didn't watch it until after we filmed because I was just so busy trying to, get mine done. So I didn't watch anything. And I think the other one was Castle Rock on Hulu. It was based off of the Stephen King books.
Yeah.
So I still haven't seen every episode of that, but you can see a lot of our set in that TV show and in that movie as well. But yeah, the whole process to film it, I heard that doing your second feature film was the hardest that you could ever do. And I didn't believe it until this time. But as soon as we started getting the okays, it was like butter. Maybe 3-4 months, 3 months of actual filming, 4 months of the pre-production, since I already had everything planned since 2021. And then, yeah, so we finished July. No, we started in July and then finished in September. And I didn't finish editing until about New Year's, at which point I sent it off to post-production.
Excellent. The idea for the story. I've never seen a story like that before. And God bless you for giving me some. I really didn't advise you that much, but you gave me advisory credits in the movie, which I love you. You know I love you, and I respect you. And thank you for that. I didn't help you that much, but I love the story. Where did that whole thing come from? Loosely based on a true story, or was it just out of the creative mind of Daniel Groom, or how did that story come to have life?
Yeah, I'd say it's more just the creative side of me because I can just come up with an idea and run with it. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like I can have one idea and just write around it and then just fill in the blanks and expand as I go. But without giving too much away, I mean, it's in the plot. It's about a videotape that's discovered that shows a murder of a patient. But one of my favorite movies growing up was The Ring. So a lot of that inspiration came from it. There's also some references to my other favorite movie, Titanic. And yeah, that's basically how I was able to write it. So, and the thing is, I also had like certain people in mind as the characters. So it was easy for me to just say, oh, well, I can just make them do this. And then everything just came natural after that.
Well, I don't want to leave anybody out, and if I do, and they're watching, please forgive me. I love the whole cast, and I know they won an award for best ensemble.
Yes.
Um, the doctor, excellent actor. The priest, excellent actor. The four kids, all excellent actors. Was it the? Oh, did the doctor, was that his wife or a girlfriend?
No, you mean the nurse in there?
Oh, they're in that scene together. They're in several scenes together, but they're eating lunch together at Cafe Venice.
Yeah, that's her sister in the movie.
Who does she play in the movie? According to him, are they? That's his sister in the movie.
Yeah, they're both
Ex-
siblings.
Excellent actress, excellent actress.
Yes,
But I
I've
am
used
gonna
her a
pick.
lot.
I'm gonna pick one kid out here. I think it's. I could be wrong. I think it's Aaron. Aaron reminds me, and I keep forgetting this other actor's name. The young actor that played Frodo.
Yeah.
That actor in your movie reminds me, for some reason, reminds me of that actor that played Frodo, and I forget that actor's name.
Yeah. I don't remember his name either. I haven't really seen Lord of the Rings, but I
Annette, do
when
you
you
remember
said that to
that actor's
Susan,
name?
I'm thinking about it because it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll think of it.
Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
There you go.
Elijah
Yep.
Wood. Exactly.
Aaron really reminds me. He's like a young Elijah Wood, in
Yeah.
his mannerisms and his look, and even his acting. And that I may just be a weirdo and feeling that way, but that jumped right out off the screen at me. But everybody in that movie is so excellent, well casted. Who did the casting?
Me and Susan and Brian.
Wow, you guys did it all. That is so
Yep.
incredible. Yeah, I see such great things for you. Um, I'm going to let Annette take over here because she's got an excellent story she wants to share. And this is the
Yes.
first time for me, too. Um, so I will let her talk to you about her experience viewing your film.
Well, I'm a book dork my whole life, and I publish books and I do all aspects of books. So, um, with that being said, I started off really into the story. I love a good story. And I love it when you surprise me and I didn't see something coming. And I thought the development of the story was very good. Um, it would have been easy to just for kids messing around at this haunted location and just a spook fest. That would have been easy to do without an underlying mystery and it actually involving one of the kids that's there without saying too much. But it ties back to him and his family. I really thought that was good. So I was enjoying it. But I did have a paranormal experience. And my experience was that I was watching the son in his room and he saw the black mass
Hmm.
and it came up behind him and it engulfed him. And then I heard things rattling around in my closet right here. And then I went outside and sent Father Shawn a message, hello. And I was hoping he was around. I was going to tell him about this because that was going on it wasn't just, I think I heard something. That was happening for about 5 minutes. And I was like, well, I think I'll take a break and go outside. And I did. I just left the room and everything. I was just, okay. Has that ever happened before? No. Have I ever had any paranormal things happen here? Yes. On a regular basis? No. Do I think it was from the movie? Maybe. So, for everybody listening, before we came on today, I asked Daniel if he wanted me to tell the story or we could just let that float on by if you don't want people to hear that. But, I've gone through similar with Father Shawn in his books. Um, so I don't know what it is, but yeah, it lasted about 5 minutes. Not violently, but it sounded like stuff in there, kind of rustling around, and the door, it's a sliding door, kind of little rattly. And so I went outside, but that's what happened at that part exactly.
Well,
That's
I think
actually really interesting that you say that because it's almost related to something that I experienced in that room, not while filming, but
Okay.
basically, long story short, that's actually my cousin's room. And when they
Okay.
moved in there, he, I was helping him set the room up, and I saw something fly from the hallway door to his closet, which is actually right behind where the camera was set up. Um, and I never told him that until a couple years later. But I swear I had seen something do that. So it is kind of cool that that happened to you as well.
Hmm.
well, I totally believe that this film could have spiritual and psychic energy transference off of
Hmm.
it. I mean, I've sent pictures that I've caught of entities to like very sensitive, gifted psychics that have gotten violently ill off of just touching and seeing the photo. Um, let's talk about familiar spirits. I mean, three of the locations that you filmed the movie at are haunted. The
Mm-hmm.
hospital, the home where the doctor lived. Susan said she saw somebody walk through the house, thought it was actually a crew member, and you on a walkie-talkie said there's nobody in the home, and she clearly saw the person. And then you guys are eating lunch, and that one scene I see you and Susan blurred out in the background, but I knew it was you two.
Yep.
At Cafe Venice. Cafe Venice is very haunted. You've done events there. Um, I'm thinking of Cafe Venice when I tell you this story. It's like there's a ghost town about 30 minutes outside of Vegas that I've gone to many, many times and helped many, many people there with paranormal issues. So much so that there's the spirit of a young boy there. And almost every time I go, as I'm walking, I can feel a child walk up behind me and hold my hand, grab my hand, and walk with me. Or I can hear like he's excited to see me again, and I can hear somebody running up behind me, and then I can feel a child jump on my back, and he'll just have me give him a piggyback ride around as I'm, going on these investigations. And then there's also a woman there who gets very excited. She's a Native American woman that died there, and she will get excited to see me again. And then she will almost always follow me home. And she won't leave until I actually see her, and then she's gone. So now, when you guys go to film at Cafe Venice, the spirits there must be very familiar with both you and Susan. Any spike in activity there while filming, and do any of these spirits, whether it be the hospital, the home, or Cafe Venice, follow you home because you have a tendency to get attachments, follow you home during this filming? And if so, did any time anything happen to really make you want to just kind of rethink, do I really want to jump in the deep end here without the floaties on and continue on this project, or do you just blow that stuff off?
So I don't. I was more focused on a lot of the filming. So if there was something that did happen at Cafe Venice, I wasn't aware of it. We, I think maybe something had happened because at the end we were just talking with everybody, with the owners. Patience and Patrick were doing their own thing, catching up because I think that was like their first day on set together, and me, Susan, the owners, and the locals to the restaurant, we were talking about the ghost stuff like always, right? And I believe that maybe something had happened, but I can't really remember what it could have been. Susan would probably know. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that if nothing happened there, then it is because they're used to us probably at that point, and they're just tired of bugging us. But when it came to the house, when she said that she saw that shadow there was some things that I've never seen anything there, but there were some things that I've heard while I was setting up for the movie. Particularly the last day we were shooting a nighttime scene. Well, what was supposed to be a nighttime scene. So here I am at the house. It's almost 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm blacking out the windows from the outside with some drape. And the house is owned by my aunt and uncle. And my uncle was gone. He was out of the country because I'm part Peruvian, so they go off every once in a while off to Peru. So he was out, and my aunt was going to work, and I saw her leave. She was gone, right? As I'm putting up all this drape around the doors and all the windows, I heard footsteps up on the top floor where the room where my cousin is. And my cousin's in college now, so he was gone. He's already in boarding school, dorms. So nobody was upstairs, but I heard footsteps up there, like clear as day. So I did get a little freaked because I was like, okay, so this place really is haunted then, because I always had the idea that it was there, but to actually hear it this time, and to bring it back to when I had seen that, I guess, entity or whatever it was that I saw, that basically just proved it for me in that place. Now, Brian had also heard the footsteps while we were doing a take, and a couple people, I believe a couple people told me they heard something too. But again, I just kind of ignored it because now the director's in me is like, I got to get this done, right? But I did have a bunch of equipment malfunctions in the house. Like a light would, two different lights would shut off randomly at the exact same spot that I had it. Like they would shut off within like a minute of being on, and everything was fully charged. So, obviously that's a classic symptom of a haunting, that they're taking the energy from all the equipment that I have. So that's basically that house in a nutshell from what I had experienced while filming. The other thing,
Real quickly, we've got Susan here. She's saying Charlie threw a menu. And so we'll stop and say hi, Susan.
Yeah.
Great to have you with us. She's just awesome. So,
Charlie threw a menu.
Charlie,
she was a huge help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I didn't really plan to have like her on set to be like my psychic guardian, really. It just happened to be that way. And thank God, because where we had the most experience was in the Tewksbury Hospital. And nobody knows that it's actually haunted or not, because nobody's ever been in there to investigate. Thankfully, they allowed me to do it. And the funny thing is, I actually told them, they boarded up every door that you can get into because they had problems with people breaking in trying to investigate. And I was talking to the main security officer, and I was like, that sucks. I do paranormal investigations too. And he was like, yeah, you see how easy it is to just ask? If you ask, then you can get in. And I was like, well, maybe I'll go back and investigate one day. But with the amount that I've seen while filming at that location specifically, I don't need to go back. I don't need to prove it to anybody because what I've experienced was pretty deep. There was one weekend we were filming so that scene at the very beginning where the kids are walking through the woods, it's actually in the trailer where they're telling Diego to shut up. Yeah. So that scene took almost 4 hours to shoot. Wow. And we didn't know, we had no clue. It was almost like we lost time within that, within the woods. Yeah, there was some technical things I had to get over, but it shouldn't have taken that long for those few scenes, right? So they get to that cemetery, and this is all in the beginning, so it's not a spoiler. But they walk through the woods. They get to a cemetery there that has the dead from the Spanish flu, which is not what that cemetery is, but historically that would be the case sometimes, right? Yeah. So we get there, we shoot everything. It's lunchtime, so I send everybody back to the base camp, and I think it was just myself, the police officer, and my camera guy. Susan, for some reason, she was late that day, and she's never late. She's always on time, punctual, everything, right?
There you go, Susan.
But yeah, no, so she texts me. She's like, hey, I'm going to be late. And she was with her granddaughter as well. So I told her, yeah, if you get here, just meet us in the cemetery, because she wanted to go to the cemetery. She had this like idea of just going there. There's something drawing her there. But she never was able to make it. I just said stay at base camp because I have people coming back. And I had lunch coming too, so I need someone to receive the food. So while we were packing up all our stuff, the police officer looks at a bench that one of the parents was sitting on the entire time. And he says, hey, is this you guys'? It's a very colorful like box about yay big, right? And I was like, no, that's not us. So he picks it up. He goes and picks it up. He opens it up. And inside of there is a note. It was all weathered, but it was still kind of relatively recent. And the note, so there was a note, a picture. It was a female, and I think it was a ring of some sort, and one other item. I can't remember exactly what it was. It might have been a teddy bear, like a small one. So he reads the note, and he comes to the conclusion, without getting too explicit, that it was basically a suicide note that someone had left there. So I was like, all right, let's get out of here, right? So we go back to the base camp, and 10 minutes later, the officer comes back because he radios it back into the his dispatch, and they say that he comes back to me, and he told me that, yeah, that note was from a person that hung themselves in the woods there back in May, and we were shooting in the middle of August, right? So for that entire time, nobody has seen that box or the note. And this is by dog walkers always going through. It's open to the public, so nobody saw it. And so I asked him, where was he found? And he said it was right by the gate. And I remember, and I hope I'm saying this correctly because otherwise Susan will slap me. Um, she was saying that there was always a picture of dangling feet from trees up by the entrance. So I don't want to butcher exactly her words, but the officer said that he was found by dog walkers, and I know she always was saying something about dogs in the woods. So she basically predicted that, and that's why the woods was calling her. And to wrap it all in a big circle, I believe when I got the email about, hey, you're cleared to use the hospital, he that's when he did that, when he did the deed. So I feel that in a way it was destined for us to do that, because his story would not have been told if we didn't go in there.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely something that kind of, I don't want to say bothered. It did bother me, but that weekend, I think that kind of messed up everything for me, because that was actually the worst weekend that I had ever filmed ever, where the attachment feeling that I had came back that day, that day and into the next day of filming, because we were filming Saturday, Sunday. So when I had my attachment, back doing the mass hauntings episode, is the exact same way I felt while filming these few scenes. And these were the most intense scenes. A lot of them were mimicking, we were portraying the patients in the rooms. There was 2 days that we did that. But the first day was the day after we found Kevin's note. I guess his name was Kevin. I'm not sure. So that to me was the most paranormal thing that I ever had in there, because it's more personal, and it comes down to the fact that I can't really prove it, other than I can prove the note was found. That's for sure. But the fact that I felt almost all the sadness that came over me and rushed over me that day, and it hit me just like that. And it comes back to the fact that if you're not in the right mindset, that you can be vulnerable for anything. And not to mention all the stress that I had to do for the movie. It didn't help. Yeah. So I think that's my biggest story that I have for the Tewksbury.
Well, listen, I've got to kick you out of here in a few minutes, so I have to give you, because I know there's going to be people that are going to get mad at me if I don't do it. You've got to let everybody know, again, name of the movie, where they can watch it, and you've got events coming up. And there's people that can have the ways and means to travel to these events. They don't just have to be there local where they're going on. Give everybody all that information.
Yeah, so the movie's name is Stonegate. We have one screening tomorrow at West Newton Cinema in West Newton, Massachusetts. That's at 4 o'clock. Tickets still on sale. You can buy them at the door. We'd rather you buy them online so we know you're coming. We just had another screening booked for Greenfield, and that's going to be where Rowan is actually from, Rowan Muzzy. So he's going to be there with me to do a Q&A session after the show. That's on Thursday 19th. June 19th at 6 p.m. And I just got into the Shawn Film Festival, which is going to be in Worcester. So there's also going to be a screening there. I believe it's July 17th, I believe. So, and I have a whole list of other festivals that I'm hoping to hear from. So hopefully it'll come to a city near you or in a country near you.
Very, very cool. I'm so proud of you, man. And as you start doing more of these films, I mean, it even happened to us on Eli Roth, the show that I did with Eli Roth.
I can imagine.
The producer and the director kind of on the side would have me go in this 200-year-old church that we were filming in, and I would do a blessing before we even got started. But we kept it on the down low because cast members were already, not cast members, but crew members were already freaked out, sitting there listening to these stories all day long, and then things happening in this old church. So I would do that. And then you hear stories like even on like Poltergeist 2, the big Indian was a shaman, and so many things were happening bad on the set. They didn't want to they wanted it to stop. They would have him come in and do an exorcism of the set. So you may have to have somebody on call to come and do that.
It's already been discussed
for your next movies, but Yeah, I'm gonna have to kick you out of here, brother. You know I love you and respect you. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to have you come back. You have an open invitation to pop on here anytime. I have Susan on at the end of every month. Um, I got to get you back on here, both of you together, later in the year. I know you guys have some Halloween events or around that
Hmm.
time, things that you guys are going to do together. So I'll
Yep.
have you both on together for that sort of stuff. But like I said, I couldn't be prouder of you. I loved the movie. I know Annette loved the movie because there's no line in Annette. She would tell me if she didn't care for it. I know she loved the movie.
I
Um,
really enjoyed what you did with the story. I
Thank you.
really
That
did.
means a lot coming from a publisher. So
Yeah. I'm like I said, you could have skated by and just had a spooky, little scare fest movie and it would have been fine. But the story got, layered and it was very nice. I thought you did a good job.
thank you.
all right, brother. You just keep doing what you're doing, man. And anything you need from me ever, all you got to do is reach out. But I will go ahead and kick you out of here now so I can say goodbye to Annette. And then I will see you when I see you, brother.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on. I love it.
God bless
Great
you, man. I'll
meeting you,
talk to you
All right.
soon.
Daniel. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you too. Thank you.
Daniel Groom, director of Stonegate. I knew you'd like him. I'm surprised. I couldn't remember if you had or hadn't met him before, but I'm glad you guys
No, my first time.
had a chance to chat. I will see you next week. You're going to love our guest next week, Friday, June 20th. He is a lifelong paranormal experiencer, a paranormal authority. He's done many TV shows. He's a really knowledgeable cryptozoologist. Brian M. Bowden will be here
Is it
next
is that the guy
Friday.
that we're going to talk about Mothman with?
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Absolutely. All
Love that.
right, woman, have a wonderful remainder to your Friday evening. God bless you. I
You
love you too. Have
too.
a great weekend and a great Father's Day. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you. I'll be back next week and had a really great show and enjoy your weekend.
Good night. Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books. Thank you to United Public Radio Network for picking up my show, UPRN. God bless you guys. Joe Montaldo, Michelle DeRoche. Don't go anywhere, guys. A Friday full of high strangeness is just getting started here on UPRN. Coming up next, we have Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. That's a great one. And if you're out there and want to be a sponsor of the show, reach out to me. We'll work something out. I'll give you a shout out live on air of you and your product and your brand. Remember, brothers and sisters, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. I love you all. God bless you all in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Happy Friday the 13th and happy Father's Day. God bless everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.